one will be for Skylar. So the question is, what does having a baseball league named after you mean to you and the future of women players in the sport?
The Skylar Kaplan Pioneers series means a lot to me. Especially because it means that what I'm doing is making an impact on girls in baseball, especially because the guy who actually started it, Ramey Fogarty, um, he has seen me play ever since I was little, and he has a daughter, and his daughter Abigail, I inspired her to play baseball, which is why he's so passionate about it and why he's really big on the tournament and the like getting it started. And it just means a lot to me to see that what I'm doing is making an impact and showing girls that they can play.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Yeah. Okay. All right. The next question is for Julie. Um, uh, what does it mean, or what has it meant to you being the first woman to play baseball at St. Mary's College of Maryland?
Um, yeah, it's been a great source of pride for me my entire life, to have been the first woman to play college baseball. Um, and I have a lot of really wonderful memories of doing that at St. Mary's, and I'm appreciative to St. Mary's for um, being forward thinking and allowing and making space for that to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. And this is a question for both of you. So say, what made you choose baseball over softball?
You gonna go first, Skylar?
Okay. Um, Personally, when I was younger, my dad, kind he kind of picked it for me, and then I kind of stuck with it. I have never attempted softball. I just started with baseball and I loved it and I never went back, so.
Yeah, I'll say my parents signed me up for T-ball. It was the year after T-ball was integrated, so girls were allowed to play. And I think it was because, honestly, I think there was a lack of choices for things to do back in the day. Um, but like Skylar, right, started playing, loved it, and never really thought to choose something else, right? I identified with baseball right away. It was a passion of mine right away. So softball wasn't a choice that I was looking to make, and one that was brought up to me on a regular basis. But they're very different sports.
Thank you. Okay. Um, so this is another question for both of you. What would you say to young female players thinking about playing baseball, or maybe even other traditionally male-dominated sports?
Um, I kind of would like to let them know that um if they stick their mind to it, that it can be done. Um, Especially it's not easy. And you kind of have to persevere and be strong-minded because you're there's a lot of people that don't necessarily want you to play. But you kind of just have to prove them wrong and just show them that it's the game that you love and that's why you're doing it. So yeah.
I'd say ditto. I will expound a little bit. I'd say go get it, right? Like go get your dreams. And yeah, it's not necessarily easy, but I think anything that's worth it isn't, right? And I would say be courageous, but it really is also being stubborn, right? And believing in yourself and sticking to something that you want to do. And that's what dreams are made of, right? And one of the nice things about being older and being alive for a little bit longer is I've seen cultural shifts, right? And there are more ways that people can do more things that are outside of sort of that standard box of what's expected. And I'd say sports is just one of those ways.
Thank you. Okay. Um, this is a good question. I think we kind of answered this one already a little bit, Skylar, but there's a question for both of you. Who inspired you to compete in sports growing up and why? And we say inspired to, not maybe not made you, right? So,
Also,
Um,
can I defend Skylar for a second there? 'Cause I think that most children, right, they start sports because their
mhm,
parents sign them up for different things,
mhm. Yeah,
right?
very true. Very true. And I will also add to that, I was in that parental moment a couple weeks ago. I had, so I have daughters that play lacrosse, and my youngest daughter came to my wife and I and said, I do not want to play lacrosse. And I kind of was like, I really had a parent, like a real moment as a parent, you don't
Yeah.
want to just force anyone to do anything. Right. And so I thought long and hard about it, and I kind of consulted with my wife too. And we kind of just basically came up with this question for her. I said, do you not want to play because it's too hard, or do you not want to play because you really just don't love it? And she said, because I really just don't love it, and so we decided you don't have to play,
Yeah.
and that made me think of that with your comment, and I think that's a really important piece for parents, because like when things are hard, you don't want to quit. That's what makes it really satisfying when you do, achieve something. And, but if you just don't love it, you also don't want to push it, and it's kind of interesting, like the fine line between do you love it or is it hard, so sorry to
And no,
just
it's okay. I think we do hard things because we love them, right?
Mhm. Yeah, very true.
Or because we have to, but that's a whole other category.
Yeah,
Anyway, Skylar, I think we both jumped in over you. Please go.
oh
yeah.
no. Um, yeah, I'd still say that my dad inspired me to play. I mean, he did kind of sign me up, and I went along with it, but he was always like there for me. Like, because obviously it wasn't necessarily easy for him either, but um he was always there for me, wanted me to do the best. So yeah, my dad definitely inspired me to play.
Oh, yeah, I felt that. So yeah, my parents were both very athletic. My dad was my primary coach, right? And he responded to my passion for the sport. And both my parents, to Skylar's point, this wasn't easy for them either to have a child who was doing something that was non-traditional, because I think they heard it more from parents than necessarily I heard it from their kids. Um, and I also had some great coaches along the way. I definitely had a coach, Bill Hare, when I was 13 years old, and Mike Zitz when I was 17, who believed in me and were vocal about believing in me. And you need those people along the way to, yeah, to help you keep going.
Okay. I will move to the next question.
Can
uh
I add one thing
oh yeah,
that
sure.
I think is kind of interesting? So when I was at St. Mary's, when I was a freshman at St. Mary's, was when I learned about the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. And I add that because if I had known that fact earlier in my childhood, right, they definitely would have inspired me. But this was when that history was not known or wasn't widely shared. So I like to think that young girls now, knowing about that history, would find inspiration there.
Yeah,
And it was inspiring when I found out, right? But I think I was 18, so it's a little late in the inspiring me to play
right.
game. You can edit that part out.
Well, thank you for sharing. Those are, I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of a personal question. So thank you for sharing, both of you. Thank you for that. Okay, so this one is for Julie. Could you speak about your experience with your and your involvement in the movie League of Their Own?
Oh, I guess that was nice. A nice segue. Yeah, that was amazing. That was one of those things that were like you just feel like life throws you a bone. And baseball wasn't always easy on me, and I know it probably wasn't on you, Skylar, either, because right, you are in a place where when folks don't want you, sometimes they're very vocal about it. But A League of Their Own felt like this cosmic, like just gift for those tough moments, because it happened right after St. Mary's, and it was about young women baseball players, and I was a young woman baseball player, and I got a random call from a film student at Pepperdine, California, asking me if I would try out. And it was also a wonderful experience to be around so many really powerful, famous, strong feminist movie stars. Like it was, and then for it to have turned out to be a classic movie, right, that people still watch is a real, it was a real gift to me.
Okay, thank you. And that absolutely is a movie that when you're going through the channels, you just stop and watch it. Even if you've seen it 20 times, like you just watch it. It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those like comfort foods of movies
Mhm.
that you can put it on. Yes.
Okay. And Skylar, this question is for you. Could you speak about your experience with the television series League of Their Own?
Yeah, kind of adding on to what Julie said earlier about like being inspired about the league and stuff like that. When I got the call from Justine Siegel, who's involved with Baseball for All, about being an extra in the series, after like hearing about like growing up, like learning about like the girls in the league and like A League of Their Own being one of my favorite movies, I was through the roof excited. It's by far one of the coolest, if not the coolest thing that I've done off the field. And it was just so exciting, especially like we've talked about, things aren't always easy, but like being in that environment and seeing like that playing baseball is just fun and everyone just wants to be there. It was a really nice reward after, because sometimes it's hard, but it was just a lot of fun, and I'm so glad that I got to be a part of it.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. So this is brings us to our next question, which is for both of you. Why is it important to recognize Women's History Month in your words?
Did you want to take this one this time?
Sure, that's a broad question. So,
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize it because we've made a lot of progress, right? The world in 2024 is very different than it was in 1970 when I was born. But we have a long way to go still, and women still aren't, we aren't where we need to be yet. I do believe we will get there. And so I think pausing and reflecting on women's contributions, because oftentimes they're sort of whitewashed or kind of just in the past have been layered on top of. Can I try that one again?
Yeah,
Can I
sure.
start again?
Absolutely.
I want to get this one right because it
Yeah.
is important. I think it's very important to celebrate Women's History Month because we've made a lot of progress in my lifetime, but we haven't made it, we are not completely equal citizens.
Mm.
And oftentimes women's contributions to history have been overlooked, right? And we talked about A League of Their Own and how that history was there.
Mm.
It just, nobody mentioned it to me right in my 13 or 15 years of baseball playing. So unearthing that history and making sure that we know it is an important part of women's equal status.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think it's also a good opportunity to kind of show where we're at and again, like the progress that we're making and that we have made. Um, and I just think it's important to recognize that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And then our next question is a question for both of you again. And that is, what legacy do you hope to leave with your performance and participation in the game of baseball?
One thing that I want to leave as like a legacy and is kind of just telling girls that it can be done if you put your mind to it. And that they aren't the only one, because for the longest time, I kind of did think that I was the only girl playing baseball. Um, and so I think it's important to like realize that and be able to show people that it can be done, because once people see something has been done, it makes them even more aware, and it makes them feel like they definitely can do it and it's not too far out of reach.
Well said. I would like to think that a door was cracked open for me by the women who went before me, right? And I sort of cracked it open a little further for the women who would come after. And in terms of a legacy, like I'd like to think that I've helped people maybe in a small way believe in themselves and follow their own paths, and more than what they're being told to or sort of prescribed to do. And again, I think there's lots of ways that that's happening in modern society, and it's really fun to see. So I think these are lots of drops in the ocean that are bringing about a real sea change that I would be honored to be a part of.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, well, I have at this point made it through my group of questions. And before, obviously I want to say thank you for being part of this, and kind of like this, what we're trying to put together here. But I also wanted to take time and see if there was anything else you wanted to share, or yeah, I mean, Julie, I know you miss campus.
I do. I mean, is there anything else I want to share? I love St. Mary's, and I think very fondly about St. Mary's. And I've actually had an opportunity to go back a couple times with girlfriends from college, and was invited back to campus. It's just a really special place.
Yeah.
And so I don't think this is part of what you want to, this is part of what you're trying to do here, but if there are student athletes or students that are watching this, like, make the most of this time. You've been given a real gift in one of the most beautiful places on earth. So a little part of me is jealous.
Yeah. Before you got on, Skylar, I was telling Skylar, I went down to the historic yesterday with my daughter and our dog, down to the Daffodil Gulch area, which is just beautiful. This is a beautiful part of historic. But yeah, it's amazing. It's still amazing. And speaking as an alum myself, like it's still really special. Like it has a never-ending appeal that it just doesn't matter, no matter how many years go by. It's that it's something about the water and the campus and the sun. Yeah.
And I say I live in California now, so it's not, but so I know what you're talking about. But there's something about St. Mary. I remember going in as a freshman, and then I'll stop talking, but I remember seeing it as a freshman and looking at the water and thinking like, oh, this is so beautiful. There's no way this will keep being this beautiful.
Yeah.
And we're leaving as a senior. I was like, nope, it's still that beautiful. Like that doesn't recede.
Yeah. How about you, Skylar?
Yeah, I personally, I love the campus. I love going down to the docks, watching the sunsets. They're definitely one of my favorite things. But aside from that, I'm not really sure if I have anything else to add.
Yeah. Well, you said a lot, a lot of good things. Yeah. And again, I want to thank both of you for being part of this. And